In at number 10, Nick Lachey. Nick Lachey also exposed Kim for being a little too friendly with the paparazzi in order to get some publicity from him. The singer claims that Kim might have only been dating him for publicity. Apparently the pair only dated for about a week, and some shady stuff went down. One time he said, let's just say this, we went to a movie, no one followed us there. Somehow, mysteriously, when we left, there were 30 photographers waiting outside. And I think from that story, it's very clear that Kim was tipping off the paparazzi, so there would be photos of them together. And if you didn't already know, unless someone is like incredibly famous, if they're a paparazzi when they are out, they definitely tipped off that paparazzi. In at number 9, Jon Hamm. The Mad Men star definitely has some choice words for the Kardashians, and based off what he said, it's clear he does not like the family and doesn't approve of how they rose to fame. With him telling LUK, whether it's Paris Hilton or Kim Kardashian or whoever, stupidity is certainly celebrated. Being an idiot is a valuable commodity in this culture because you're rewarded significantly. It's celebrated. It doesn't make sense to me. So clearly he doesn't like the reality TV stars whatsoever and doesn't like how our society praises socialites like Paris Hilton and the Kardashians. And like, I kinda get where he's going. Like, you know, he has some valid points. In at number 8, Kristin Cavallari. Kristin Cavallari has a very interesting relationship with the Kar Jenner clan. It all started when Kristin dated Brody Jenner, and through that relationship she also became friends with the Kardashians. But after Brody and Kristin broke up, there was tension between Kristin and Kourtney Kardashian. After Kourtney caught Scott out with Kristin while they were in an off period. And after that, Kristin called out the family for using that information as a publicity stunt to get viewers to their show. And allegedly, after rumors broke that Kristin and Scott were having an affair, the Kardashians refused to deny it and instead waited to address it on their show, leaving Kristin looking like, you know, the bad, terrible other woman when it just wasn't even true. More than a little shady if you ask me. In at number 7, Barack Obama. Former President Barack Obama also couldn't hold his tongue when talking about the famous family, and it's definitely quite the compliment when the president is speaking about you. Or is it? The former president was talking about the changing dynamics of the American dream and how it's shifting with time, saying there was not that window into the lifestyles of the rich and famous. Kids weren't monitoring every day what Kim Kardashian was wearing or where Kanye West was going on vacation, and thinking that somehow was the mark of success. And ouch, here it's pretty obvious he was throwing some major shade their way. And he doesn't seem to like how they are now the standard for what success is. And apparently Kanye West did not like those comments and actually fired back at the president. But also, since Obama was a former president, you know, I trust his opinion and judgment way more than Kanye's. And at number 6, Kris Humphries. Kris Humphries was someone who probably challenged the Kardashian family the most and exposed secrets about them I'm sure they did not want out. Kim and Kris got married in one of the most lavish televised ceremonies ever, but famously, after only 72 days, the couple split because Kim was having second thoughts. But based off how much content their reality shows got because of that relationship, then the breakup, Kris called Kim out for fraud, arguing that the whole relationship was just a publicity stunt. And their divorce was so messy it lasted 2 whole years before it was finalized. But during the massive trial, Kris exposed that a lot of the Kardashian show was scripted, and that the show purposefully made him look bad. Like when him and Scott threw a party in one episode while the girls were out of town, and they looked really horrible for going behind their backs when they told them not to have the party. The whole thing was actually just a huge sham, with Kim and Kourtney knowing about the party and acting like they didn't know for TV, in turn making Kris look like a terrible husband when it literally wasn't like that at all. Halfway at number 5, Rebel Wilson. Rebel Wilson revealed on a radio show that she was presented an opportunity to present an award with Kendall and Kylie Jenner, but Wilson ended up turning it down, with her saying in the interview, "I got asked to present with Kendall and Kylie at the recent VMAs and said no. It's not that you hate any of them individually, but it's just that everything they stand for is against everything I stand for, and they're not famous for talent. I've worked really hard to get where I've gotten to." And even though a lot of people who dislike the Kardashians share the same sentiments, Oprah Winfrey actually came to their defense against Wilson, if you can believe it, with Oprah saying that she couldn't believe how hard the family works, referencing when she filmed the family for Oprah's show, with crews taping the family for 7 hours straight, and then they filmed more of their reality show after. So, as we all know, the Kardashian family really works very hard, even though it doesn't seem like they do too much. And at number 4, Bette Midler. After Kim uploaded her incredibly famous nude selfie where she covered her, nether regions with just like black bars, The internet went ablaze talking about it. One of the people that didn't hold their tongue was Bette Midler, who tweeted out, "Kim Kardashian tweeted a nude selfie today. If Kim wants us to see a part of her we've never seen, she's gonna have to swallow the camera." Which, come on, you have to admit, it's pretty hilarious. Like, even if you like the Kardashians, like, it's a good tweet. As a clapback, Kim tweeted out that it was past Bette's bedtime and that she was a fake friend. And Bette responded back, "Looks like anyone can take a selfie, but not everyone can take a joke." And then she lightened the tension by posting her own nude. When talking about the feud later, Bette had no hard feelings and said she takes Twitter pretty lightly and hoping that Kim did the same. Hopefully Kim wasn't actually too peeved about that. I mean, come on, it was clearly a joke. I don't know. And at number 3, Wendy Williams. If you watch Wendy's show, which I definitely do on occasion, she spills the tea like nobody else, then you know she does not like the Kardashians and is always very blunt when talking about them. But Wendy got the spot of a Kardashian hater when she made some shady comments about Kim after her robbery incident. And when talking about the incident in Paris, Wendy said, "I would hope that she's not making any part of this up for dramatic effect. Because this family, you know, they're kind of soulless. You can't believe everything that you hear." But this was very, very upsetting. And although I do not agree with Wendy at all that the Paris incident was a publicity stunt, a lot of people did feel that the incident could have been exaggerated by the family for views, with people citing numerous times in the past that this has happened with the family. And again, I do not agree, but I mean, she just brought it up as kind of a possibility, and obviously, she loves to shade them whenever she can. And at number 2, Blac Chyna. Blac Chyna is another Kardashian ex who was ousted from the family after her and Rob's relationship ended. And you know that whatever went down was bad, because the family is still nice to Tristan and not Chyna, even though Tristan is arguably way worse and embarrassed them so much more. The first of the feud was surrounding the fact that Kylie started dating Tyga, who was Chyna's ex. Then Chyna started dating Rob. And then the two got engaged and then pregnant very quickly. But after they had Dream, the whole thing fell apart and Chyna and the Kardashians were facing off on social media. Chyna even filed a lawsuit against the family, claiming that they stopped her show Rob and Chyna from getting a second season. A judge dismissed that case, but Chyna still shades the Kardashians whenever she can. And at number 1, Anna Wintour. This last one is something that I had no idea existed, but it's probably the shadiest one of all. So Vogue is one of the most prestigious magazines to be on the cover of, and Kim Kardashian and Kanye West were put on the cover in a very controversial move by the magazine's editor, Anna Wintour. When talking about the criticism, she noted that it would be a misstep to ignore the couple's influence, and she made the choice to lead and deal with the backlash rather than follow. And all of that praise to the couple is, you know, all well and good, until she gives them quite a backhanded compliment, saying, "I think if we just remain deeply tasteful and just put deeply tasteful people on the cover, it would be a rather boring magazine. Nobody would talk about us." And although I totally get what she's like trying to say, calling the couple, you know, deeply untasteful is definitely more than a little shady. But I mean, if anyone can shade anyone, it's Anna Wintour. She can shade whoever she wants.
Coming in at number 10 today, we have Sarah Michelle Gellar. Back in 2014, Sarah Michelle Gellar definitely became Buffy the Kimye Slayer when she threw some serious shade at Kim Kardashian and Kanye West's first ever Vogue cover. Shortly after Anna Wintour approved April issue was revealed, Sarah would head over to her Twitter to say, "Well, guess I'm canceling my Vogue subscription. Who is with me?" While many fans agreed with Sarah's tweet, including me, Kim Kardashian's best friend, Jonathan Schunab, would retweet Gellar's post and he would say, "Do you even matter?" Buffy fanatics would then even start to argue that she very much does. After much of a debate, even Anna Wintour would come out to defend her controversial choice to place the reality TV star and the rapper on her issue cover in the editor's letter by saying, "As for the cover, my opinion is that both are charming and touching, and it is, I should add, entirely our idea to do it. You may have read that Kanye begged me to put his fiancée on Vogue's cover. He did nothing of sort, but if you have to come out to claim something like this, it's most likely it was true." Coming in at number 9, we have Jonah Hill. In 2011, Jonah Hill would end up slamming the Kardashian family in an interview, but even after admitting he hated everything the family represents, he still can't stop watching the show. During the interview, Jonah would count himself among the ranks of those who are still keeping up with the Kardashians, but only with great reluctance. And he even was too duped by Kim's wedding, and he would even state that the show took money and attention from people in the television industry who actually work to create compelling original programming. Also, in the interview, he would go on to note that the whole show was a giant joke, and then he went on to say, "The truth is, I have friends who work in TV, and Kardashians get higher ratings than their TV shows. That people actually work hard on writing and creating, trying to tell their stories. The fact that Kardashians could be more popular than a show like Mad Men, it's disgusting." But that doesn't mean he doesn't watch, as he would then go on to say, "I can't even understand it, so I watch it. I think it's funny and I definitely enjoy it in a making fun of sort of way. But where does the line sort of end? When do I stop making fun of it and become an actual fan?" And the truth is, you never actually do. Even fans aren't fans. We just find the drama so fantasizing, because what kind of family actually has so much drama going on in their lives 24/7? It's just not healthy. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming at number 8, we have Lily Reinhardt. Lily Reinhardt spoke out against Kim after the Skims owner admitted to undergoing a restrictive diet to fit into a vintage Marilyn Monroe gown for the 2022 Met Gala, after Kim boasted about her losing 16 pounds to fit into the iconic gown worn by Marilyn during the John F. Kennedy's birthday party. She was able to lose the weight in 3 weeks. Lily would then take to her Instagram story to call Kim out by saying, "To walk a red carpet and do an interview saying how starving you are because you haven't eaten carbs in the last month, all to fit in an effing dress, so wrong, so effed on hundreds of levels. To openly admit to starving yourself for the sake of the Met Gala, when you know very well that millions of young men and women are looking up to you and listening to your every word. The ignorance is otherworldly and disgusting. Please stop supporting these stupid, harmful celebrities whose entire image revolves around their bodies." Lily then noted, "I'm generally not an angry person, but I swear to God the toxicity of this industry sometimes really gets to me, and I have to head to my Instagram story to rant, to release my rage." Number 7, Michael Buble. When Michael Buble was performing his iHeartRadio live concert in 2011, he made his feelings about Kim Kardashian crystal clear when he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have a very special guest. Please welcome Kim Kardashian." But after a short pause, Buble then shot back, "Nah, I'm just effing with you. That B ain't coming on my stage," before transitioning into his cover of Nina Simone's classic Feeling Good, which he said was dedicated to Chris Humphries. Later he would explain that he hated Kim because she hurt Chris and he wished that she hurt him instead. Michael's diss wouldn't be the only backlash Kim would experience after she filed divorce from Chris after only being married to him for 72 days. The reality TV star even had to enlist in a celebrity lawyer, Marty Singer, to fight back against Jonathan Jackson, who claims that she staged her wedding, among other things. Number 6, Daniel Craig. It's no lie that the Kardashian family has made millions from living their lives in the public eye thanks to their reality TV show. But one person who is less than impressed by the Kardashian family is Daniel Craig, who launched an astonishing, foul-mouthed rant about the family in an interview with GQ magazine back in 2011. The James Bond star even labeled the clan as effing idiots and criticized those who sell themselves and then make demands about their private life, when he said, "I think there's a lot to be said for keeping your own counsel. It's not about being afraid to go public about your emotions or about who you are and what you stand for, but to sell it off, it's gone. You can't buy it back. You can't buy back your privacy. Oh, I want to be alone? F you. We've been in your living room. We were at your birth. You filmed it for us and showed us the placenta, and now you want some privacy." Referring to the Kardashians, Daniel would then also note that while the clan is worth millions, he doesn't think they were badly off to start in the beginning because of their looks. And then he would go on to say, "You see that? And you think what? You mean all I have to do is behave like an effing idiot on television and then you'll pay me millions? I'm not judging it. Well, I am obviously. So the moral of the story is, if you want to be famous one day, maybe take some notes." Number 5, we have Rebel Wilson. In 2015, Rebel Wilson would slam the Kardashian family's meteoric rise to fame in a candid live interview. In the interview, the Pitch Perfect actress said she was frustrated that she had to work so much harder to get to where she is and where she wanted to be, by saying, "It's not that I hate any of them individually, but it's just that everything they stand for is against everything I stand for, and they're not famous for talent. I worked really hard to get to where I've gotten to." Rebel didn't even want to be on the stage with the family's 2 youngest siblings at the 2015 MTV Music Video Awards when she said, "I got asked to present with Kendall and Kylie at the latest VMAs, but I said no, I'd rather do it myself." She then went on to compare Kim Kardashian to her own acting experience by saying, "They aren't really really about talent. I mean, how Kim got famous was from an X tape, and I went to acting school and worked really hard. Number 4, Reese Witherspoon. In 2011, America's sweetheart Reese Witherspoon was really ready to talk some trash when she went on a rant against certain breed of celebrities when she was at the MTV Movie Awards. When accepting a Generation Award from Robert Pattinson, the actress railed at the celebrities in vain of the Kardashians and Paris Hilton and other celebrities when she said, "I get it, girls, that it's cool to be a bad girl, but it's possible to make it in Hollywood without doing reality shows." While a dig was definitely made towards Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton specifically, Reese would also go on to say, "When I came up in business, if you made an X tape, you were embarrassed and you hid it under your bed." Reese would then go on to say another Hollywood trend she is tired of seeing is the leaking of celebrity nudes photos, and she would even caution those who end up taking them to cover their face so they didn't become the next Kim Kardashian. Number 3, Jon Hamm. Jon Hamm and Kim Kardashian's feud all began when Jon sat down for an interview and said, "Whether it's Paris Hilton or Kim Kardashian or whoever, stupid is certainly celebrated. Being an exploitive idiot is a valuable commodity in this culture because you rewarded it significantly." The quote found its way back to the Kardashians, who responded by saying she respected Hamm and his right to have an opinion, but we're all working really hard and we all have to respect one another. Calling someone out who ruins their own business is part of a successful TV show. Producers, writes, designs, and creates. Stupid is in my opinion. Jon would then come out to clarify that he didn't mean to personally offend Kim Kardashian. He's just not a really big fan of the culture she represents. When he said, "It's surprising to me that it has become remotely a story. I don't know Miss Kardashian. I know her public persona. What I said was meant to be more of a persuasiveness of something in our culture, not personal, but she took offense to it, and that's her right. My quote was simply about the version of television and the version of American culture being celebrated, and it's not something that I particularly enjoy." Number 2, Joel McHale. Back in 2018, Joel McHale would land a new weekly show on Netflix 3 years after E! Pulled the plug on his pop culture show, The Soup. After he made a slew of jokes, Kris Jenner wasn't happy about it. Joel, who dished the dirt on E! From 2004 to 2015, told Variety that his streaming series will in some way be similar with its use of clips from television shows among the pity commentary. Reflecting on his years on The Soup, he would also speak about how one of the network's own shows, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, eventually became a no-go area for him, and he would say when Kris Jenner would complain about our jokes, and then later the president of E! Networks would simply ask McHale to lay off the Jenner and Kardashian family for a week, and then the administration and the president told him to his face, "Don't make fun of the Kardashian family. We don't want you to make fun of the Kardashians." Joel then went on to say that the network really wasn't happy when The Soup started to make fun of Kim, as they always joked about how Kim was only famous for having a big peach and the infamous tape, but I mean, they aren't really wrong. Number 1, Jeremy Renner. Back in 2012, Jeremy Renner would join the growing list of celebrities who have expressed an extreme distaste for the Kardashians. In a recent interview with the UK paper The Guardian, the actor would even claim that he never wanted to be famous, and while discussing the pitfalls of fame, he would unleash his disdain for the reality TV family. When the Kardashians' name was mentioned in the interview, Renner would reportedly roll his eyes and then call them ridiculous people with zero talent, who spend their lives making sure everyone knows their names. He would then add, "They are stupid, stupid people," which makes it definitely safe to say you'll never catch Jeremy spending his weekend binging on episodes of this famous reality TV family show. However, whether you like them or hate them, it seems like if you want to get your foot into Hollywood, you have to get on this family's good side, so you might just want to be careful when it comes to making comments about them, because you never know who might be watching.
First up, of course, we have Chris Rock. The person who has shown the world the true dynamic of the Smith family is definitely Chris Rock. After Will smacked Chris on stage at the Oscars, the world got to see a different side of Will, and it was shocking. While comedian Chris Rock was speaking to the crowd and taking some dig at the celebrities in the audience, Rock decided to take a jab at Jada Pinkett Smith, and I'm sure you know what happens next. Chris said, quote, "Jada, love you, G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it," referencing her almost bald head, because in the movie G.I. Jane, the lead actress Demi Moore had a shaved head. Jada has been open about her struggle with alopecia, and that's why she shaved her head that night. Immediately after the joke, Will Smith decided to get up, interrupt the broadcast, and slap Chris Rock in the face for millions to see. Chris looked stunned and was not sure exactly how to respond. Will then walked back to his seat and yelled, quote, "Shut your mouth, keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth," twice. After the slap, Rock looked completely stunned, having no idea what to do or say. It looked like he was about to clap back and say another harsh joke about Will or his family, but Rock took the high road and decided to stay calm. The internet was set ablaze by the slap, with many not even sure if it was real or just staged for publicity. But considering the aftermath, it was clearly real. Although many pointed out that Will actually laughed at the joke moments before deciding to get up and slap Chris Rock. After this event, many are accusing Jada of wearing the pants in their relationship and manipulating Will to do her dirty work for her. There's a chance that he was simply defending his wife, but many believe that Will knew that if he didn't do something to avenge her honor in that moment, Will would have been in trouble. Even though the event was said to be the biggest night of Will Smith's life, which definitely it was, just not in the way that he wanted. Next up, August Alsina. After the infamous Oscars slap, old reports that Jada had cheated on Will in the past resurfaced. The pair have spoken about how they are in an open marriage, so we are not sure if it was really cheating or not, but Jada admitted she was in a quote entanglement with rapper August Alsina during a break with her husband. During the Red Table Talk segment where they spoke of the affair, Will looked visibly angry about the situation and pushed Jada to confirm that she did have a relationship with August. After admitting to cheating, she did not apologize or even seem remorseful. She instead deflected, saying, quote, "I was in a lot of pain, I was very broken," saying she only wanted to help August, but it turned into a relationship. Alsina had been introduced to Jada by her son Jaden at a London music festival in 2015. Insiders stated that August became like a member of their family, even going on vacations with them and staying in their mansion. August is 21 years younger than Jada, and he claimed that Smith had actually given his blessing to have an affair with his wife, an allegation that Jada has denied. Will also reported that he had affairs with other women during this time. He was rumored to have slept with co-star Margot Robbie. Many believe that Will's insane reaction to the joke is proof that he is in a toxic relationship with his wife, because he completely embarrassed himself on the biggest night of his life, all because of a bad joke. Even though it doesn't seem like Jada is ashamed of anything she did, it is strange that she tried to deny it, then downplayed it when she could not brush it off anymore. And without August coming forward, we would have never known about their strange relationship. Margot Robbie. Jada most likely hates actress Margot Robbie because it was rumored that Margot and Will had an affair while they were filming the movie Focus. But that's not all. Jada has also admitted that she has a bias against white women with blonde hair, which we assume attributed to this dislike. In 2018, Jada made headlines when she admitted on Red Table Talk that she has a racial bias, specifically admitting that she has a problem with blonde white women, saying on the episode, quote, "I do have my own biases, specifically with blonde women. Blonde hair on white women just triggers me, and I've had to catch myself." Pinkett Smith even admitted that she second-guessed doing interviews with blonde women in the past because they remind her of the type of kids who used to tease her in school. But Jada has worked hard to fix this bias and even admitted that white women still do face oppression based on their gender, making it easier to relate to them. Next up, Cherie Zampino. Cherie Zampino was married to Will Smith before he and Jada got married. The shady part is that Will and Jada started dating before he and Cherie were officially divorced. Jada's mother, Adrienne Banfield-Jones, dished on Access, quote, "I think initially when Will first called you, I think he was still married or he was just separated, and I was like, he's not available to you." Jada added that Will was div, but the worst didn't happen yet. But Jada later admitted that when she learned things were not finalized, she should have backed off. To make matters worse, Jada has claimed on multiple occasions that she never even wanted to marry Will. She only decided to go forward with it because she was pregnant. Her mother and Will thought that starting a family was the best idea, and Jada reluctantly agreed. Later, the couple agreed to an open marriage. Scientology connections. After the Chris Rock incident, some started connecting the dots between the bizarre slap and Scientology. This is because the Smiths have been tied to Scientology in the past, and physical punishment is a popular teaching in the church. Apparently, it's a common teaching in Scientology to use slaps and other forms of physical force to show other Scientologists that they've done something wrong. After the slap, one user tweeted, quote, "There's a Scientology course, I guess you'd call it, that involves slapping or physically humiliating fellow Scientologists in a group setting as a means of exerting superiority. It's remarkably common within the cult." The user even shared that Tom Cruise is known to use similar styles of punishment, but instead of hitting, he uses shouting to intimidate movie crews. Although the Smiths have denied being involved with Scientology, the connection is pretty hard to deny. The couple were apparently introduced to the church by none other than Tom Cruise back in 2004. They got so involved with it that the Smith family spent almost $1 million in 2008 to set up a school for the church. The Smiths said they designed the curriculum in the school, but insiders claimed it was based on Scientology. Both Jaden and Willow attended, but the school closed 6 years later when most of the parents removed their children. Tony Ortega, an expert in Scientology, said that the Smiths left Scientology in 2015 and that Will at least only ever dabbled in it. However, he says that Jada was a full-fledged member and apparently everyone knows it. Next up, William Hendricks. The Oscars was the first time that many Will Smith fans saw him get violent. But to people like William Hendricks, his hot temper is well known. In 1989, Smith spent a night in jail after he hurt a man named William Hendricks so badly that Hendricks almost lost his sight. Even more coincidental, this incident happened days after Will won his first Grammy. I guess he likes to get into altercations around award season. The charges were later dropped against Will. Will Smith was 20 years old at the time and after getting in a verbal argument with the producer, decided to make things physical. As per a police report, Smith asked his bodyguard, Charles Alston, to quote attack record promoter William Hendricks, who needed 6 stitches after he fractured his left eye orbit during the altercation. Next up, Sony Executives. One of the strangest things about the Smith family is the couple's relationship to their children. The Smiths have been open that they don't use punishment when dealing with their kids, and they pretty much let them do whatever they want. But this parenting style may have backfired, because it's common talk in the industry that Willow and Jaden are entitled brats that nobody wants to work with. Because of their parents, the kids have auditioned for many big roles in the past, but only Jaden has landed roles alongside his father. It was exposed that Sony executives have exchanged emails saying not to allow the Smith kids in their movies. As a response to this, Will shrugged and noted how, quote, everyone disses his kids. Some of this might stem from the differences between Will and Jada and how much fame they want their kids to have. Sources say that Will wants to push his kids to fame much more than Jada wants to, leading to a clear difference in parenting. Considering Will admits to being responsible for their kids' erratic behavior, it's not far-fetched to think that there's a clear difference in what both parents want for their children.
Number 10. Harry's misconduct. Back in 2005, Prince Harry attended a costume party dressed as a Nazi. This is a risky enough outfit for anyone, let alone a British royal. Of course, pictures from the party were leaked to the press, who plastered it all over their front pages. Harry, who was 20 years old at the time, really should have known better, but he still made a public apology from his royal offices, which read, Prince Harry has apologized for any offense or embarrassment he has caused. He realizes it was a poor choice of costume. But the papers held onto the story for quite some time, and it caused widespread outrage worldwide. Then 4 years later, in 2009, the prince was dealt another huge blow to his reputation when a tape emerged of him using racial slurs against members of his own army platoon. In the video, you can hear the prince using offensive language as well as racist terms. Once again, Harry had to make a public apology to try and save the royal family from further embarrassment. It didn't work, and the footage was relentlessly replayed around the world. If you're loving this video so far, please hit that like button, it would really help us out. Number 9. Prince Andrew's friend. The disgraced prince is no stranger to controversy. In 2011, it emerged that he was good friends with convicted sex offender and American financier Jeffrey Epstein. He was married to Sarah Ferguson, who came forward confirming their friendship and revealed that her ex-husband had asked Epstein to clear some of her debts. Although he later reported that he had cut all ties with Epstein, Buckingham Palace came under new pressure to explain their relationship with the American in 2015. The royal family has since tried to distance themselves from Andrew when his disturbing ties became public, and there was a civil case brought against him. Not long after that, it was announced that he would be stripped of his military titles and royal patronages and would no longer be allowed to use the title His Royal Highness in any official capacity. The trouble is that no one really knows the full extent of Andrew's involvement with Epstein, but the public mood still seems so set against him that he will likely not be able to return to public life for quite some time. Number 8. The Hidden Cousins. In 2011, an explosive documentary was released called The Queen's Hidden Cousins, which revealed a scandal that has avoided the public eye for decades. In the 1940s, mental illness was not understood as much as it is today, and so the royal family viewed it as an embarrassment when 2 of the Queen's first cousins, Nerissa and Catherine Bowles-Lyon, were born with severe learning difficulties. Born in 1919 and 1926 respectively, Nerissa and Catherine were never able to be a part of the royal family. Instead, they were incarcerated in a mental institution in 1941 and remained in care there for the rest of their lives. In the documentary, nurses who oversaw them categorically stated that no members of the family ever came to visit the 2 sisters, who were unable to articulate speech, but apparently had a great spirit about them. When the story of the sisters' existence was published in 1987, a scandal instantly erupted when it emerged that the royal family had apparently erased two of its members from their lives entirely. Number 7. Diana's biography. It's no secret that Prince Charles and Diana had a terrible marriage, but unlike many royals, Diana was vocal about her private affairs. We know that she felt like a total outsider within the royal family and felt like a prisoner trapped in a loveless marriage. In Diana's biography, she recounted a desperate time when she felt truly shut out by her husband. Quote, "Charles said I was crying wolf. I said I felt so desperate I was crying my eyes out, and he said, I'm not going to listen, you're always doing this to me. I'm going to go riding now. So I threw myself down the stairs." She ended up falling right at the Queen's feet, and as it turns out, Elizabeth and Charles had nearly polar opposite reactions to her cry for help. According to Diana, the Queen comes out absolutely horrified, shaking. She was so frightened. Diana said that she was quite bruised around the stomach, but when Charles came back from riding, he just dismissed the whole incident and carried on out the door. Number 6. The hospital incident. Charles has always had a bit of a rocky relationship when it comes to being a father to his two sons William and Harry, although nothing really displayed his attitude as a parent more than the hospital incident in 1991, when an 8-year-old Prince William underwent emergency surgery for a skull fracture. The little prince was hit on the head with a golf club while playing with schoolmates. The injury was so serious that he was kept overnight at London's Great Ormond Street Hospital following an hour-long operation. Princess Diana spent the night sleeping in a bed set up near William's room so she could look after her son, whereas Prince Charles took a different approach entirely. Rather than stay and comfort his wife and injured son, after a 15-minute visit, the prince left the hospital to go to the opera. It's no surprise that when Buckingham Palace was informed of the prince's decision to keep his previous plans but keep in touch with doctors, he was completely bashed by the tabloids. Number 5. Beatrice's boyfriend. The Queen's granddaughter, Princess Beatrice, is 9th in line for the throne now. She's well known for being a socialite and a philanthropist, but she has certainly made some sketchy dating decisions in the past. In 2006, when the princess was just 17 years old, she started dating an American playboy called Paolo. This relationship was very troubled. Not only was Paolo older than the teenage princess, but he had a dark past. Prior to his relationship with Beatrice, Paolo was arrested for the manslaughter of 19-year-old Jonathan Duchatelia. Well, apparently he decided to confront Paolo for disrespecting women at a party, so he got beat up. Amazingly, the manslaughter charge was dropped and reduced to a lesser charge, but he even broke the terms of his probation while dating Beatrice by taking a trip to the French Alps. Talk about red flags. But thankfully, their relationship didn't last long at all. Number 4. Princess Anne's marriage. As the only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II, Princess Anne's romantic life has been under a microscope since she was young, despite the fact that the princess lives a relatively private life away from the constant scrutiny that often follows a member of the royal family. She married Lieutenant Mark Phillips in 1973 at Westminster Abbey in a highly televised and anticipated ceremony, but their marriage was deeply troubled, and Phillips ended up having an affair with New Zealand art teacher Heather Tonkin. This resulted in a daughter being born in 1985. The marriage was in complete shambles, but struggled on for 4 more years before Princess Anne and Mark Phillips separated in 1989. The divorce was finalized a few years later in 1992. Interestingly enough, Anne remarried later that year, becoming the first royal divorcee since Henry VIII. Their wedding was much more reserved than the first one, with only 30 guests and no cameramen. And 30 years later, they are still happily together. Number 3. Margaret's Heartbreak. Princess Margaret famously fell in love with Peter Townsend and was so dedicated to the man that she actually planned to marry him. But the relationship was doomed from the beginning, as he was 16 years older than her and already married with 2 children. While Townsend eventually divorced his wife in 1952, the Church of England's then strict rules about remarriage after divorce forced Margaret's hand. Under the Royal Marriages Act of 1772, the princess required the Queen's permission to marry before the age of 25. Although she had turned 25 that August, she still needed the Parliament's approval, and they had already made it clear that they would never offer her consent. She would have been able to marry him if she gave up her title and rights of succession, but Margaret was also aware that it would have never been allowed by the church either. She released a heartbreaking statement saying, "It might have been possible for me to contract a civil marriage, but mindful of the church's teaching that Christian marriage is indissoluble, I have resolved to put these considerations before any others." Number 2. Princess Diana's struggles. In 1992, Andrew Morton published his biography on the Princess of Wales, called Diana: Her True Story. It contained explosive details about Diana's eating disorder, something that was long rumored in the press but never covered this extensively. It turns out his source for it all was Diana herself, who passed the author confessional tapes. Quote, quote, "The bulimia started the week after we got engaged and would take nearly a decade to overcome. My husband put his hand on my waistline and said, 'Oh, a bit chubby here, aren't we?' And that triggered off something in me and the Camilla thing. I was desperate." Diana revealed that she was driven to an eating disorder by being trapped in a loveless marriage and the pressure of being in the public eye. But her raw, candid confession sent shockwaves through the world at a time when eating disorders were rarely talked about openly. To have a global superstar do so and on such a stage challenged a major societal stigma. And coming in at number 1, Prince John. Born on July 12, 1905, Prince John was the youngest son of King George V, the Queen's grandfather. The young boy reportedly suffered from epilepsy, and the royal family was not particularly interested in having him live a very public life as a royal because of the stigmas behind the disorder. So they deployed a very familiar tactic to cope with what they thought would have been a scandal. They hid the child away from public view. Royal biographer Christopher Wilson has noted that some family trees completely leave out Prince John's name. He explained that if they feel they have somebody that isn't up to scratch, they want to write them out of the history books. And this happened in the case of Prince John. The moment that he died, we hear no more about him, which is incredibly sad but not unusual behavior when it comes to the British monarchy.
Coming at number 10, we have makeup. During a November 2016 appearance on ITV's Loose Woman, Priscilla Presley would admit that Elvis would refuse to see her without makeup on, or even if she looked a bit disheveled. During an interview, Priscilla would say, "Some can't have the truth. I've always had a little bit of makeup. He never wanted to see me getting dressed. He wanted to see the end result." It wasn't until after the pair got divorced that Priscilla would notice that Elvis had been trying to transform her into the ideal woman. That's why he had strict rules on how her makeup should look and how she should dress when she was around him. Priscilla would even say later in an essay for People, something in his southern upbringing had taught him that the right girl was to be saved for marriage. I was that girl. She would then claim that Elvis would try to mold her into his perfect woman, and she would wear clothes, hairstyle, and makeup of his careful choosing, and it took her years to finally understand who she was and to build a personality of her own. Number 9, Elvis's mother. It's no secret that Elvis had a deep-rooted mommy issue problem, which ultimately bled into his relationship with Priscilla. In her 1985 memoir, Elvis and Me, Priscilla picked up on Elvis's unshakable relationship with his mother Gladys, who passed away in 1958. Priscilla would say, "I was to learn Elvis's mother Gladys was the love of his life." According to Express biographer Alma Nash, pointed out that Elvis's mother passed away coincided with him meeting Priscilla, which might have led to his obsession to turn her into Gladys. Elvis was looking for that young girl that he could mold into the very image of Gladys, and he had a knack for dressing up young women to resemble her. He would pick out their clothes, makeup, and show them how to style their hair, and this is why Priscilla was so perfect, is because she would do everything he wanted her to do because she was scared that if she didn't do it, some other woman would, and she wanted to be the one. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming at number 8, we have Scientology. Lisa Marie Presley was so traumatized by her father's passing after she discovered that he had passed away at the age of 9, she had to spend the next 35 years of her life trying to be cured by the Church of Scientology. According to claims by her former counsel, Karen de la Carriere, who was known as the Queen of Scientology as she was high-ranking member of the church for 35 years, she would say that Priscilla Presley turned to Scientology to alleviate the grief of Elvis's sudden passing in 1977. She used the church to help control her daughter's behavioral problems as well. While Elvis would never allow his daughter to join the church if he was still alive, after Priscilla joined the church after being recommended to join by John Travolta, she would then make Lisa Marie join as well, and Priscilla would even go on to force her to attend behavioral classes so she could get her daughter to fall back into line. Lisa Marie was a second-generation Scientologist who didn't want to go into Scientology in the first place, but was dragged into it because her parents were in it. She also didn't want to attend the courses, but she had to follow her mother's rules. Number 7, obedience classes. After Lisa Marie Presley started to act out after her father passed away, Priscilla was seeking out new ways to help gain control of her daughter, Lisa Marie. One of these methods was to let the Church of Scientology deal with her. By the age of 11 years old, Lisa would be dropped off at the Scientology Center for hours for obedience therapy and purification rundowns. This would reportedly consist of hot sauna sessions, exercise, and taking vitamins. Every day, Priscilla would be seen scowling when the big limousine would drive up to the Celebrity Center with a chauffeur and drop Lisa Marie off, as she was ordered to get out of the car to get into into the church and straighten herself out. Lisa Marie had no choice but to attend the sessions, and every time she acted up, she would be dropped back off at the center. Priscilla would instruct the church to handle her, and Lisa Marie would be stuck at the center for hours and forced into conversion therapy and obedience therapy. Number 6. Can't talk to Elvis's friends. While Elvis might have been a fan of sexy outfits and heavy makeup for Priscilla, he was so allegedly quite jealous and possessive of her. He made it clear from the beginning that the Memphis Mafia was to keep their distance from Priscilla. Elvis's former bodyguard Sonny West would even say he made it clear that Priscilla was not to enter any room with other males that were present until Elvis was already there. Elvis also went to great pains to shield Priscilla from the public and sometimes even his friends. Any violation of the mandate let her in for a 3rd-degree punishment. If she spent any time alone with any other man in Graceland, no matter how innocent it was, both she and him might be questioned about why they were in the same room together, what they talked about, and for how long. Elvis is said to have had a possessive attitude, and it's surprising with his own colorful dating history. If you are with Elvis, it was only him, but he could be with whoever he wanted. Doesn't make sense. Number 5. The Secret Children. Even though Elvis has been gone for many years, Elvis is still the center of several new scandals over the years, and one of them, hitting headlines, seems to claim that the King of Rock and Roll supposedly kept a secret of 7 of his children from the rest of the world. And over the years, the Presley family had to keep this a secret. While it's just been a speculation that Elvis does have other children, the National Enquirer would even state that they too believe Elvis may have 7 other children out there, as the tabloid has claimed that they have conducted a 2-year investigation into missing members of the Presley family, and the National Enquirer has even went as far to say that they have witness testimonies, check receipts, personal correspondence, birth certificates, and DNA tests that prove that the children belong to Elvis, and that they were kept away from Hollywood all this time. And the Presley family even kept this a secret from the world, and with the family being very quiet on the matter, it leaves you to wonder if the king actually does have any other children floating around out there. Number 4. School. When Elvis and Priscilla first started their relationship, it would continue upon his return to the United States, and Priscilla stayed in Germany with her parents. In 1960, Elvis would return to the United States, and during this time, him and Priscilla would stay in touch, and soon Elvis would plot a plan to have Priscilla come visit him at his Graceland home. During a school break, Priscilla joined Presley and his family. However, after ensuring Priscilla's parents she would remain in Memphis, and he reportedly took her to LA, and Elvis's friends would cover up for the king by sending the teen's parents postcards from Memphis to mislead them to cover his broken promise. After a 1962 Christmas visit, Presley would then urge to have Priscilla stay by his side, and he would assure Priscilla's mother and her stepfather that she would attend a Catholic school in Memphis and obtain a high school diploma. He also promised her parents he would live with his father off his Graceland property. However, after several nights of living with Elvis's father, she began spending more time at Graceland, and she would eventually move in permanently without her parents suspecting any wrongdoing, and they kept this a secret from her parents as they broke her parents' rules. Number 3. Don't approach Elvis for photos. Anyone who had plans of dating Elvis had to follow 3 strict rules when it came to dating the King of Rock and Roll. The first rule that they would be given is that they were not allowed to ask to take pictures with the star, and they weren't even allowed to go around his Graceland property and snap pictures of themselves either. Elvis made this a strict rule as his girlfriends were meant to be his girlfriends, not fans. Elvis was a very private person, and if you were going to be with him, you had to be with him. Even if you were a fan, you had to put this all aside, otherwise he wouldn't want to be with you and he would just cut off communication with you completely. And if you thought any of Elvis's rules for dating him would be negotiated, they couldn't. Even if you thought you could spin things around and negotiate the rules, this wouldn't be the case, and Elvis would just end up ghosting you. Number 2. The golden rules. Elvis Presley had an affair with his on-screen lover Anne Margaret that turned into a romantic relationship. But when things got real and Priscilla Presley found out about their relationship, he was forced to break his one golden rule before marrying her. Elvis's life changed when he signed on to appear in Viva Las Vegas. At the time, he starred in a massive amount of movies that showed him singing, dancing, and courting women for the delight of his millions of fans. But then he met Anne Margaret and started to spend almost every waking moment with her. However, when other people started to get involved in their relationship, it would start to crumble. When Anne Margaret was in the UK promoting Viva Las Vegas, when she was asked about her relationship with the King of Rock and Roll, somehow she was misquoted in saying that she was secretly engaged to Elvis. And this would lead to Elvis to break one of his most important rules, which is if you're caught in the act, never admit to it. This would be the time Elvis would come clean to Priscilla, who was furious, and he would then decide it was time to take their relationship to the next step. And he married Priscilla as he previously promised Priscilla's parents he was going to marry her one day, and being a man of his word, he did, and he ended up ghosting Anne Margaret for not following his other golden rule, which is to keep his name out of the press. Number 1, stay with Elvis at all times. So recently, Elvis's ex-girlfriend Mindy Miller exposed Elvis in an interview when she stated that he had 3 non-negotiable rules for his girlfriends that they had to follow, and they were set out by his Memphis Mafia. One of the rules any woman in Elvis's life had to follow was that you had to be present with Elvis and watch him at all times. Mindy would go on to say, if he got up in the middle of the night and he didn't sleepwalk, he just wanted to watch TV or something, to eat, whatever it was, you had to watch him. 2 words. Watch him. She would also go on to say, I, unlike other girlfriends, didn't consider it a part of the job. It was delight for me. He was my boyfriend. I didn't look at him as Elvis Presley. I fell in love with the man I met. If Elvis wanted something to eat, Mindy would go downstairs to the kitchen with him, and he would call one of the maids to bring something up. Either way, anything that was going on, whether Elvis was to leave or go to bed, Mindy or any of his other girlfriends would have to stick by his side, and they would even have to study and read the Bible and spiritual books together.
Number 10. Alec is homophobic. Alec Baldwin is a proud man, being publicly anti-Trump and a registered Democrat with left-leaning political views. But despite his advocacy for equality, he's been accused of being homophobic on multiple occasions. In June 2012, Alec released a very angry tweet, which he later deleted. It contained comments about the New York Daily News editor-in-chief, Colin Meyer, calling him an English queen. A year later, People magazine reported that Baldwin released another tweet that the Daily Mail was a toxic little queen. Man, he loves that word. That same year, Alec was fired from his MSNBC talk show Up Late with Alec Baldwin after allegedly screaming homophobic slurs at a New York Post photographer. After his show was cancelled, Alec released an article that asked his fans, was he really homophobic? He went on to write, look, I'm in show business. I'm awash in gay people, as colleagues and friends. He then did the most defensive thing possible by listing all of his gay friends and then described a time when he had to kiss Russell Brand in a scene as a way to be like, hey, I kissed a dude, how could I be homophobic? Hey man, you'd be surprised. He made the argument that he was a public advocate for gay marriage because he officiated a ceremony at one point. But like, hey man, you're an actor. It would make sense that he plays the role of a public advocate to keep his true biases a secret and maintain his career. Number 9. Alec's control issues. While his brothers may have had a more public battle with their substance control issues, Alec also had to battle his demons in the form of multiple narcotics and a taste for adult beverages. In his 2017 memoir, Nevertheless, Alec revealed that not only did he battle with control issues for years, but he also suffered from a nearly fatal overdose after a week-long bender of continuous partying. He wrote that he thinks he would have gotten sober eventually, but that the event was an early wake-up call that he needed to get clean just before he turned 27. He describes his time before that as living in the white, hot period of daily substances and drinks, claiming the experience to be an addictive nightmare that was impossible to get a handle on. Eventually, he was able to get a grasp on his issues and has remained relatively sober ever since. Well, at least California's sober at least. Wink wink. Number 8. Alec's temper. In 2007, Alec directed his hot temper at his daughter, Ireland, who he had with his ex-wife Kim Basinger in a now infamous voicemail that would reveal the usual mild-mannered, soft-spoken man was secretly an angry man. TMZ obtained the audio of the message to Ireland in which Alec screams, "You are a rude, thoughtless little pig. You don't have the brains or decency to be a human being. I don't care if you're a child or that your mother is the toughest pain in the butt." The perception that he may be verbally chastising his daughter came after claims that he was going to straighten her out, which led a family judge to bar Alec from seeing his child. While the family later reconciled in 2012, his daughter has said in recent interviews that the voicemail was never perceived by her as intense, as she was used to those kinds of verbal outbursts from her father. Just to anyone watching this right now that thinks screaming and breaking things is a normal reaction when you're upset, it's not. please call someone or get help, because it's not okay to act like that, especially towards your own flesh and blood. Seriously, if that's happening to you or someone you know, just call the number down below. Please talk to somebody and let your voice be heard. Number 7. Ireland's rehab stint. Alec Baldwin's daughter, named after his favorite place to pass out, isn't a party girl, but she certainly came close a few times. A source told Radar Online that Ireland was not considered to be an addict per se. She did drown her feelings in the spicy no-no juice that adults just love to glug though. In 2015, Ireland had to be hospitalized for severe stomach pains, which turned out to be a serious case of appendicitis. Despite it just being her appendix, the hospital visit had come after a roughly 6-month bender, and she reportedly told the hospital officials that she needed professional help. Baldwin then found herself checking into Soba Recovery Center in Malibu, California, which treats control issues for various substances as well as any underlying psychological problems that may lead to them. She was quoted as claiming that she's not much of a party girl, but she needed to deal with some emotional trauma and get some intense therapy to help her speed up her recovery. Thankfully, she progressed beautifully during her time at Soba, thanks to the support of her fellow Baldwinians, especially her mama Kim, who regularly sent her care packages from home with little notes and treats. Hey, got a problem with substance control issues? Eat a Snickers. Number 6. Steven is broke. While he may not be as well known as his brother Alec, Stephen Baldwin has been steadily working in Hollywood since his first appearance in a minor role alongside Tom Cruise in the 1989 film Born on the 4th of July. He went on to star in several indie and medium-budget flicks, like the 1995 thriller The Usual Suspects, the Flintstones prequel Viva Rock Vegas from 2000, and probably most famously the 1996 film Biodome, of which he got a little bit too excited about. You see, Biodome ended up being one of his most lucrative films, and between the first paycheck in the year 2012, he went completely broke. While he's had steady work in smaller roles over the years, appearing to be well off, the paychecks have not always been the biggest. In 2012, Steven was arrested for failing to file his taxes from 2008 to 2010, owing the state over $350,000 in back taxes. It turns out he just loved spending money on literally anything he wanted. Houses, boats, cars, all of this landing him over $2.3 million in personal debt. Following his arrest, Steven pleaded guilty to tax evasion and was forced to pay back $300,000 immediately just to avoid any prison time. Recent reports say that he has moved into a small condo in New York after selling anything that may aid him in repaying the government. Hey, it only took him being arrested to realize that he should probably pay his taxes. How about that? Number 5. Steven can't drive. Alec's baby bro Stephen Baldwin may have had massive financial woes over the years, but he's also been a bit of a bad boy behind the wheel. In 2014, Baldwin was busted for driving with a suspended license in New York City. He was reportedly carrying an expired registration form, which he confidently handed to the police, expecting to be met with nothing but praise and excitement that it was Hollywood superstar Stephen Baldwin, oh my! Instead, he was met with handcuffs, as not only was the car registration expired, but his driving was so erratic and insane that he was charged with aggravated unlicensed operation of a motor vehicle, which is a misdemeanor, as well as driving an unregistered vehicle and driving with a suspended license. This was not the first incident involving his poor skills as a driver, however. A few years prior to that, he was also arrested for making an illegal U-turn. Well, he wasn't arrested for that. He was arrested because his license was beyond expire. In the end, though, he only had to pay a $75 fine that time, as the incident was a misunderstanding and his new license just so happened to appear the day after he was pulled over. Well, that's not suspicious at all. Number 4. Daniel's arrests. The Baldwin family may consist of Hollywood heavyweights and minor league players, but did any of you know about Daniel Baldwin? Because I don't know, I didn't. E! News reported that in 1997, Danny went on a no-snow-fueled rampage at the famed New York Plaza Hotel, smashing every piece of furniture in sight and completely destroying his room. When police finally arrived following multiple noise complaints, Danny was in his birthday suit, bleeding, and incoherent. He was taken to the hospital where he woke up in handcuffs. He later pleaded guilty to the charges of disorderly conduct and was sentenced to 3 months of rehabilitation to avoid any jail time. This family should have like a little punch card or something, you know? 4 stints in rehab, get the 5th one free. The rehab didn't work, however, as in April 2006, Baldwin was arrested again for possession of no-snow after another hotel incident, this time in Santa Monica, though charges were never actually pushed onto him. He later confessed to People magazine that his control issues started at a party in 1989. 6 months later, he went to rehab, but it never took. He blames his major relapses and arrests on his prescription for Vicodin, which was given to him following a back injury. From there, he spiraled into to everything under the sun, probably including the sun itself. Maybe you can get a buzz from that thing if you look at it too long. Nope, I'm just blind now. Number 3, Daniel's love life. Daniel hasn't only been involved with drama when it comes to the police, he's also got a pretty poor taste in judgment when it comes to his relationships. He's been married 3 times and has 5 children with 4 different women. While his first marriage wasn't very public, his second one was chock full of scandal. He married actress Elizabeth Hitchler in 1990 and divorced her 6 years later. During the same year, he had a son named Atticus with his Homicide: Life on the Street co-star Isabella Hoffman. They had reportedly been involved for over a decade, including during Dan's time married to Elizabeth. It's his 3rd marriage though when things got extreme. Baldwin met a woman named Joanne Smith in California at the rehab facility that he had been staying in. She was the chef, and he was hungry. They married in 2007 and had 2 kids together. In 2011 though, Baldwin again filed for divorce, this time citing Joanne's substance control issues as the main cause. He also alleged that Smith had told Dan she was going to end his life in front of their children and was accused of being physical towards him on numerous occasions, and would fall into violent rages. Police were even called to the house at one point and discovered that Smith was unfit to be around the kids and granted Daniel temporary custody and restraining order against her. Number 2, divided by politics. While Alec may be outspoken as a man against former President Donald Trump, even parodying him on the sketch show Saturday Night Live for a few seasons, his brother Stephen is the yin to his yang, as he is a big-time supporter of the Republican bad boy. The differences in their beliefs caused a massive rift in the family unit that the Baldwins fought hard to keep secret from the public eye. Unfortunately, Stephen couldn't keep his fingers off of his phone, and he took to Twitter to have a public feud with his brother Billy Baldwin, who was also anti-Trump. The argument ranged from "I'm right, you're wrong" to "Dad would be rolling over in his grave right now if he heard you say that." In 2017, Stephen admitted to Hollywood Reporters that he hadn't spoken to his brother Alec in over a year following the dispute. Stephen's daughter Hailey Bieber confirmed that even within her immediate family unit, politics caused a lot of issues when Trump was elected. Now that he's out of office and on the verge of jail time, we have to imagine that the Baldwin family are just anxiously beating their heads on the wall like, what is gonna happen? And at number 1, Alec doesn't play by the rules. Alec always presents a calm and soft-spoken demeanor when he's in interviews or interacting with fans, but in his mind, the rules of common society just don't apply to him. A little while back, Alec was kicked off of an American Airlines flight after he refused to turn off his cell phone when the crew asked him to. According to Alec himself, he was playing a game of Word with friends when the situation took place. Now, he posted on Twitter, "Flight attendant on American reamed me out for playing Words with Friends while we sat at the gate not moving. No wonder American is bankrupt." American Airlines themselves denied the notion that they took the situation too far, claiming that Alec was extremely rude and calling the crew inappropriate names and using offensive language the moment he got on the plane. He later continued his journey on another American Air flight and tweeted that the new crew had already looked smarter than the last one, making it sound like it's not a smart idea to upset him or something. I don't know. What are you gonna do, Alec? Huh? Come get me. A few weeks ago, the world was delivered the news that Sophie Turner and her hubby Joe Jonas were getting a divorce after 4 years of marriage and the creation of 2 kids. While the situation has been rocky from the start, the news just keeps on coming. This weekend, it was revealed that Sophie Turner would be suing Joe Jonas for wrongful retention of their children. This past Thursday, a representative for Joe Jonas shared a statement in response to Sophie's lawsuit that alleges that he is not allowing the children to return to England. The main claim is that after multiple conversations with Sophie, Joe initiated divorce proceedings in Florida. According to the man, Sophie was well aware of the fact that there was a divorce taking place, when she actually claims to have gained the information first from social media. There is already an order in place that restricts both of these parents from relocating the kids at this time, an order that was apparently served to Sophie on September the 6th. While Sophie is claiming that Joe is essentially holding them captive, Joe's representatives maintain that Sophie's claims came after a brief Sunday hangout with the kids in New York. Joe's impression of that day was that it went great and that he and Sophie had reached an agreement on where the kids were going to stay and how they were going to be parenting them going forward. But The next day, she called Joe and demanded that the children be returned to her in the UK. She also demanded that Joe handed over their passports so that she could take them out of the country as soon as possible. Joe has responded to the situation, claiming that all of these accusations are completely false. And a fun fact, as of writing this video, it was announced that in order for the court cases to proceed, that these two will need to undergo parenting classes while things play out. These 4-hour legally mandated courses held by the Florida court. The order states, all parties to dissolution of marriage proceedings with minor children or to paternity proceedings shall be required to complete the Parent Education and Family Stabilization course prior to entry by the court of a final judgment. This order also prohibits the relocation of the children on both parts. While Sophie has been dragging Joe's name through the mud, he's been entirely on the defensive. According to Joe himself, Sophie is just using a tactic to bring the court case to the UK, where apparently it would be a lot easier for her to relocate the kids permanently. The original news when these two first split was that they were going to be co-parents. The kids have been with Joe for a while now due to Sophie filming a TV series outside of the US. While she may be claiming he's withholding them or trying to do something sinister, most of the evidence points to a massive misunderstanding. So far as the world knows, there is no reason for Joe to withhold anything from Sophie unless it had to do with the safety of the kids. It's important to note that Joe is the one who filed for the divorce and has been maintaining his position as a dad throughout it all. According to the paperwork filed for the divorce, the marriage between Joe and Sophie is irretrievably broken. Sophie must have done something pretty hardcore for Joe to leave her, especially since they had already started a family together. Joe has not been doing himself any favors since the announcement of their divorce. Originally, the world was under the assumption that maybe Joe had possibly cheated on her. According to Joe, the reason was Sophie's partying lifestyle just did not mesh with his. The claims have been disputed and called silly, as not only has Sophie rarely been seen out and about as much as her hubby, but she said a dozen times over the years that she's like a homebody and a major introvert. Meanwhile, Joe has been on tour over the years, and many fans have shared photos of him just living it up. For someone claiming that they prefer to stay home, this guy really does like to splurge. In fact, Sophie was pregnant and raising a kid for at least half of their relationship, so people were like, when would she actually have time to party? Well, it turns out that she has a lot of time now, as she's been photographed living it up in the UK a couple weeks ago, clearly taking some time off to let off some steam. It's been recently confirmed that something is definitely going on in the realm of cheating or some kind of like an outside marriage deal. The exact details are unknown, but a lot of people speculate that the entanglement might have taken place a few months ago because Joe was photographed without his wedding ring for a short period of time, but only a few days before the divorce was announced, it magically returned to his finger. But it's not just their divorce that's been this rocky road. When they first met, it was just as chaotic as you may expect. In an interview with Harper's Bazaar UK in 2019, Sophie spoke about these two meeting, and she basically said that they got set up. She explained that they had a lot of mutual friends and they'd been trying to introduce these two for a long time. Apparently they were following each other on Instagram, and Joe direct messaged her one fine afternoon, just completely out of the blue. Soon after the meeting, he invited her to meet up while his tour was passing through the UK. She said that the two of them had an instant connection, even though she hadn't expected to like him. She said that he didn't bring any security, he brought a friend, and they drank just as hard as the rest of them. She remembers the two of them spending only a couple of minutes on the dance floor together, and then they found a space in a far corner and just kinda talked. Sophie went on to say that they talked for hours and hours, but she was never bored. She felt that the conversation wasn't contrived and it wasn't small talk. From her point of view, it was just easy peasy. She said that soon they were inseparable, and then she went on tour with him. So at that point, it seemed like she had really fallen hard for him, and marriage came pretty soon after that. Joe Jonas was 28 years old when he popped the question to his then 21-year-old girlfriend Sophie. Now, a lot of people believe that age is but a number, and many didn't find this to be a big deal at first. An insider close to the couple revealed that they were madly in love, and while Sophie is a little bit younger than Joe is, she grew up in a small English town, and it's not really out of the ordinary of an age difference to be glossed over. Many fans also came to her defense, citing that her mental maturity was far greater than Joe's, because while she may have been 21, she was forced to grow up fast, and because of that was probably like 30 mentally speaking. Joe and Sophie tied the knot in Las Vegas, Nevada, after publicly claiming several times that they were in no rush to get married. After telling the world that they'd be taking time off for themselves following their engagement, it was not less than a month later that they tied the knot and attended the Billboard Music Awards literally the next day, like right after they got their license. They went to a little wedding chapel in Las Vegas that's actually famous for its star weddings, like Britney Spears' marriage to her friend Jason Alexander for a couple of days. Not to mention the wedding featured some huge Vegas cliches. There was an Elvis impersonator that was literally their officiant. Many speculate that Joe was trying to prove something to his brothers by throwing the exact opposite style of weddings that they did. Nick Jonas and Priyanka Chopra had an extravagant $1 million wedding spanning multiple days. The only people in attendance for Joe and Sophie, though, were Joe's brothers, DJ Khaled, and Diplo. They also didn't wear the traditional dress and suit. Instead, they opted for slacks and jeans, and to cap it all off, they used ring pops instead of real rings to seal the deal. And I feel like I'm describing a dream I just had. Sophie Turner previously admitted to OK Australia in 2016 that she's never dated anyone who she didn't know before or who was in the industry. And her reasoning was that in addition to being more focused on her acting career, her love life at the same time would be bogged down. She claimed that lifestyles were a massive contributing factor. Joe and Sophie had different ideas of what was fun. She went on to say how on-set romances are amazing but tend to be very temporary when it comes to, their time together. The logistics seemed to be her main concern. If she was filming in Australia, he was touring in the States, they'd never get to see each other. But after getting together officially with Joe, Sophie admitted that she did feel like she was in a bit of a fishbowl. Frustratingly for her, the smallest thing would make headline news. If she stubbed her toe on the sidewalk, it was in the news. Her frustrations were legitimate, but why maintain the charade for so long if you're uncomfortable with Joe from the start? So, what is the truth with Joe and Sophie? Well, right now it seems pretty straightforward. Sophie has started partying more and more, and she is being photographed doing things basically every day. As the weeks have gone by, more and more things just keep popping up. Meanwhile, Joe has just been taking care of the kids and fighting tooth and nail to keep his name in good graces. So, many people are divided as to what side to be on. Well, I just want to remind everyone who made it this far into the video, thank you by the way, that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We will get confirmation on what's up in the next few weeks more than likely. Heck, for all we know, these people will be the next Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. But for the time being, all we can do is speculate and just hope we're right.